So you already know the deal. In life, you've got to work hard to get what you want. You've got to try and try and try again to make the dream come true. But every now and then, just every now and then, something amazing falls in your lap. And for us at CrossFit Carolina Beach, we knew we wanted to provide something amazing and something great for everyone there. And we were lucky enough to have one of our members, Bradley Farrell, fall in our laps and say, man, I want to host a podcast for you guys. And so we are bringing you a podcast from the viewpoint of a member as the host. And he's going to involve us in different ways, and it's going to be mostly his creative idea, which is really, really exciting for us. On that note, this is the first ever episode, and we have already made quite a few rookie mistakes, and we're going to get better at it as we go on, I'm sure. But you'll see a brief break at about the 15, 16-minute mark where the camera battery died. It really happened. And then we switch over to an iPhone. The sound quality actually improves when we switch over to the iPhone, which is funny because we were using podcast recording equipment the whole time anyway. That's a whole other thing we'll work out. But apologies for the break, and we look forward to serving you a lot of amazing content about the awesomeness that is CrossFit and improving your health and wellness in 2019.
Sweet. Cool deal. What's going on, folks? Bradley Farrell here with episode 1 of You Are The Product. It is a podcast by CrossFit Carolina Beach. And today, on today's episode, we want to talk a little bit about, of course, CrossFit, the history of CrossFit, for folks who may have no clue what CrossFit is. We're going to do a little background story on Jordan and I. I'm here with part owner of CrossFit Carolina Beach, Jordan Vance.
Good to meet you.
So we'll share a little bit of our stories and how we came to find CrossFit and ultimately find CrossFit Carolina Beach. And then at the end, we'll talk about what's coming in January and in 2019. So Jordan, let's get it started, man. What the heck is CrossFit?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is defined as constantly varied functional movements performed at high intensity. That doesn't really mean a lot to most people because that's a lot of weird words, right?
For sure.
What we like to...
And kind of scary, high intensity.
Yeah, high intensity.
What's that look like?
Yeah. And so what we always tell people is we do things that are going to improve your overall human experience. So can you be stronger? Can you move faster? Can you breathe better? Do you have better improved range of motion? And we're going to use a lot of different tools and techniques to help you achieve that. And some folks in the process lose a lot of weight. Some folks build some muscle and lean down, look strong. But
how is CrossFit different from, for me, before I had found CrossFit? I grew up, Dad had the Bowflex machine in the basement, the Schwinn, some dumbbells, and then you grow up and you're playing sports and you're doing the bodybuilding physique type stuff. And then later I found things like P90X or those beach body type things. How is CrossFit different from your traditional bodybuilding or your physique building focus and maybe some of those other programs that people stumble across?
Yeah, great question. I think what we try to teach blends elements from all of those. And I think that's the most important thing about CrossFit is that it does kind of take every discipline. So a lot of times we might use bodybuilding stuff to, say, improve tendon and ligament strength and health. And We might use a powerlifting movement to just build raw strength, and we might use an Olympic weightlifting movement to develop some power output. Or also you might use yoga as a means to stretch out and be limber and all the good things that come from a good yoga practice. But in the class setting, we would blend elements together in a way that makes a workout that is fun, engaging, and gets the work done.
Yeah. So I've noticed, just in things I've looked up when I Google CrossFit, I see this like pyramid of, I don't even know what it's called, but can you address that, what that is? And I know that's a big part of the culture, a big part of the CrossFit focus.
Yeah. So I believe the one that you're referring to is the theoretical approach to fitness.
That's it.
Which on the bottom level is nutrition.
Correct.
And then above that is cardiorespiratory endurance. And then, so if we're going up the pyramid, and then next is strength. Without having it in front of me, I'm kind of drawing a little bit of a blank, but
me too.
That that's okay.
I only know that at the top of it is sport.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought it up is it's something that I've come to love about CrossFit is that it encompasses so much. It's a broad coverage of fitness.
Yeah.
Because what, for me personally, I struggled with for years after high school. Because in high school, and I played a little basketball in junior college, I'm lifting weights to apply that to my sport. And so it makes perfect sense. And then on top of that, you look good, you feel good, and it just comes natural. Well, when you graduate and you move on from playing sports, it gets a little harder. And me and my brother would talk about this. We'd find ourselves in the gym like, what are we doing here, man? Why? It's kind of we're just picking things up and putting things down, and this kind of sucks.
Feels like you should be out doing free throws or something.
Right? Yeah. Applying weight training, conditioning to a sport, and so I think that's the unique thing about CrossFit is it is a sport in many ways. If you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, totally, and. So the sport of fitness is what, if you were to see the CrossFit Games on television or maybe even a local competition, definitely the sport of fitness where we're going to gauge, is this person the fastest and also the strongest and also the most skilled at some technically involved movements. And I think that's one thing that's cool about, if we go back to that pyramid, with sport being at the top of the pyramid, so that means that we're going to dedicate the least amount of time actually to developing skill acquisition of the sport in specific, and that conversely we'd be spending the most time, since nutrition's at the bottom, paying attention to what we actually put in our bodies, because that's super important. Greg Glassman, who founded CrossFit, he says a CrossFit gym should essentially be a nutrition business with a squat rack in the back.
There you go.
But we talk a lot about nutrition, but so then I do think that it's important to say in that when we're talking about the sport of fitness, and when I say things like who's the fastest, who's the strongest, and who has the best expression of skill acquisition and skill development of certain tested skills, now all of a sudden that is where the whole thing of what CrossFit is becomes scary to someone who may have never heard of it. This might be your first time ever looking into CrossFit, and if you come across this video, all of a sudden we did a really good job of making it even more scary and more
probably
convoluted. and that's but it's important to know that Bradley brought up the sport of fitness, and the sport of fitness isn't exactly what happens in most CrossFit gyms. In the CrossFit gym, it's really the individual doing things that are going to benefit their health and longevity.
Sure.
Versus, you could go play pickup basketball and get a good workout in, but you're not LeBron James, right?
Right.
Just like you can go to a CrossFit gym and get a great workout in, but you're not Matt Frazier,
right,
or Catherine David's daughter,
who are the best CrossFitters in the world right now. So, for those who don't watch the documentaries on Netflix, which I know many of us don't, I do. Sometimes I go to sleep with them playing in the background. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I hope to bring a perspective for our viewers and for members or anybody who's looking to consider CrossFit, bring that outside perspective, because it wasn't that long ago that I was that person, curious about CrossFit. I'd heard some, maybe negative stigmas that we'll address in a second, and was frankly, to be honest, just scared to give it a try. You realize that it's going to be intense. It's going to be difficult, and so it's kind of playing with your mind. Why again am I signing up for this? But what I've learned over the course of a year and a half is that the gains you get from CrossFit are not just physical. You can apply them to every single important aspect of your life, whether that's your business, your relationships, your faith. I mean, when you kind of can understand that overcoming obstacles, whether it's that really difficult Metcon, is actually going to make you better, make you stronger, or if it's overcoming, in my case, I work in real estate, it may be a difficult deal that I'm trying to work through, and because my mind is so trained with what I've experienced in the gym, some of those situations in my daily life aren't difficult at all.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's one of the best parts. And also, I'm not totally sure if we've made this totally known yet or not, but what's really cool about this video, or if you're only listening to the audio on the podcast, what's really cool and something I'm super grateful for is Bradley taking the time to do this, because he's not employed by CrossFit Carolina Beach. He's a paying member who's offering to provide some insight and perspective from being a member. Which is awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah, happy to do it. It's one of those things, like, for sure, that I'm that passionate about. Jordan and I, something we do at the gym is we'll have our yearly goal sessions, and we were going through the goals, and I'd gone into it knowing I wanted to ask, what can I do for you? What can I do to help out the gym? And I'd had the idea of a podcast and something that can provide some valuable content to our members, give folks an opportunity to get to know Jordan better, maybe myself better, and then down the road we've got plans to feature members from the gym and the other coaches that we have. So something a little different that you may not find from whether it's other fitness facilities or other CrossFit boxes around the community. So we are excited about things to come in 2019 for sure. But to kind of get back on what we were talking about, I know as a member of CrossFit, I'm always having to answer to questions from my friends, family, peers, people that I work with, some of those common objections of CrossFit, and some of those like negative stigmas that are out there. First and foremost, I always get pushback on the price. Mm-hmm. That CrossFit and functional fitness is too expensive. And I've got my thoughts on that, but I wanted to hear yours first.
Yeah, that's always the biggest point of contention from prospective members, potentially future members who are coming in for the first time, and why is this so expensive? And the answer is we focus on giving you something that we know is going to work. And in order for that to happen, there's a few important things. The first and most important thing is you actually show up. And so with people taking the time to actually show up, there's a financial piece to that, which is it's really easy to auto draft $35 a month from a Globo gym and not,
or even less.
Yeah, or even less, and not show up. So it's kind of whenever you start paying into that, depending on what gym you go to, above 150, some gyms above 200 or 250, depending on the city.
Right.
You start to take your spend a little more seriously, and you actually make it into the gym more often. But that's only one piece of it. The other end of it is we want to keep the membership smaller, right? Like
right.
we don't want to have 1,000 members that only 5% of them show up.
Right.
We want to have 150 members where 100% of them are coming at least 3 or 4 days a week. And with that, providing coaching, and in providing not just rah-rah take you through the routine that's on the board for the day, but actually give you a meaningful experience where you feel like you're learning something hopefully every single time you're in there, and can for years. With that comes the financial cost associated to having a professional coach, someone who actually really knows what they're doing and they've dedicated their life to this, as opposed to having to split part-time jobs and maybe they wait tables at night and they coach CrossFit in the morning, or maybe they actually have a 40-hour-a-week job somewhere and they want a little extra spend, so they go coach some classes. That's not for us. It works for some gyms, but for our gym, we're all there full time.
Right.
And that was the exact moment where the battery died. We do a good job of picking back up where things dropped off, and thank you for hanging with us.
Sorry about that, folks. Rookie mistake with episode 1. Lesson learned, charge the camera battery. But we are thankful for the iPhone that we had on hand.
That's totally 100% my bad.
Why is the lighting different?
40 minutes later.
They look a little. We're just glad we still have the same clothes on, because we were thinking we'd have to come back next week, but we figured it out, so we are back. And where we were discussing one of the most common questions that I get as a member, and I know Jordan gets, is the cost of CrossFit being too expensive. And Jordan was actually explaining, what you get from a CrossFit gym. Part of that value, and I know that I take seriously, is the coaching and the level of coaching that we get. So you not only have an extensive background in CrossFit as well as Joel, but Marissa is an Olympic level weightlifter.
Pretty darn close.
Getting close. So you wanted to talk more about her and your history and background with the coaching that you provide.
Sure, yeah. So Joel is my business partner for CrossFit Carolina Beach, and we come from Asheville, North Carolina to Wilmington, and just had a ridiculous, we just got super lucky to be at the gym that we were at in Asheville that just had, it was ran by a couple chiropractors, and the insight that they provided on fitness, as well as with their background, their discipline with chiropractics just made this super, super unique experience. And being there for 6 years, working there for 4 years, just picked up a lot from them, and then also just being a relentless learner and researcher, and also implementer tester on myself. Came through and found out a lot. And Marissa is my wife, who works with us, and she so I had some health issues. That's what got me interested in it. She came from a different angle, but she had some issues that she was working through, some physical ailments. at some point that, and really through pain, you have this big explosion of research and knowledge, and figure out how to help and apply to other people.
And side note, Marissa is not only a great coach, but she's also a great DJ, in my opinion. She will get the music cranking to the level that you need to push through some pretty tough workouts. If I show up and Marissa's there, I know the music is going to be on point. But yeah, so there's no shortage of great coaching at CrossFit Carolina Beach, and I consider myself very, very lucky in that regard. My journey that brought me to the gym was I moved back to Wilmington to start my real estate career. I had a personal goal to try out CrossFit. And so literally the first week that I was back, I was researching CrossFit gyms in the area, and the closest one to where I lived happened to be CrossFit Carolina Beach. And once I found it, which we can discuss later, again, I just consider myself really lucky, the level of coaching that we receive. And to kind of tie that back in with the cost, because early on for me, I was definitely one of those folks that I could not justify the price at first. And then I realized that if I was going 4 to 5 days a week, that I started looking at what it actually cost me per day. And it was easy. Give up the energy drink or the Starbucks coffee and give up Chick-fil-A, or give up, fast food at lunch, because it was about $8, $9 what it was costing me a day. And I think if you can see it from that perspective, it's not so hard to maybe cut some of that stuff out. Then on top of that, I actually have a background. I had worked at more of your traditional Globo gym before, signing up members for, that $29.99 a month deal, which was fine and great. But and obviously that is much more affordable in the eyes of most folks than what CrossFit, what you have to pay for a CrossFit gym. But you're not getting the coaching. You're not getting the same level and sense of community and building the same type of bonds that I've been able to build and have over the past year and a half. If you were going to go to one of those Globo gyms, and let's say it was $50 a month, and they offer a personal trainer, and it's $100 a month, which is, by the way, a low price for what most personal trainers might charge, you're already at $150, which is competitive with what you're going to find at our gym. So just from my perspective, that's how I was able to justify it. And I don't think most people think about that enough, about what you can give up, what you're getting in return, and then how that compounds pretty quickly over time with a lot of positive results. I'm not eating the Chick-fil-A or the McDonald's or the junk food every day. I'm cutting out the energy drinks, and by the way, I've got to get better at it still. And then of course you're finding yourself in the gym because you're like, heck, if I'm going to pay this much money, I'm going to be there. So I don't know if you've had other members or anybody else kind of mention things along those lines.
Oh yeah, and I think too another big value piece for it is the goal review sessions, where we sit down and we actually iron out the details of like, what do you actually want to do? Why are you here to begin with? Right. Because if we can't answer that question clearly and then have an action plan associated to that, then it's, you might just be coming to maintain, but like progress is not really going to happen in any gym setting if you don't actually have prioritization of your goals.
Sure.
And then with that, we've got the InBody scanner where we do body composition, fat versus muscle mass, and see how things are changing in your body over time. And just a lot of good value added through those goal review sessions.
And then I think maybe the most important has been the relationships, and I alluded to it earlier, but just the relationships that I've been able to form and the sense of community that we have at our gym. We do things, it's not just about going in and suffering through a workout together. which is great and has made it easier for me to show up each and every day and knowing that I've got friends there and they're expecting me to be there. But we've had our annual cornhole tournament every fall that is a blast until I'm out in the first round every year, unfortunately. We've gone bowling together. We have get-togethers for our members, baby showers, party. Heck, what was our party this past summer where we had a slip and slide, and it was all. The things we do outside of the gym that you're not going to find. I think I can confidently say you're not going to find anywhere else. Is all a part of that value for me.
Definitely, it's and thank you to Andrea and the Southern Sign Company for the slip and slide experience.
It was awesome. All right, so another question that I'll get, or some pushback that I get, is people, they have this fear of they're going to get hurt. They're going to get injured doing CrossFit. Throwing that much weight over their head, Olympic lifting. It's kind of, and for me, considering back when I was thinking about getting into CrossFit, I was like, man, I'm going to blow my shoulder out. How's this going to work? I've had knee surgery. I'm going to blow my knee out. How do you address those questions?
Yeah, really based on the individual. I think there are some people in the world who it makes zero sense for them to ever do an Olympic lift.
Right.
So we can just start with that. What's an appropriate alternative that's going to get the same effect of the exercise that we're trying to get, but also not put you in harm's way, and then being absolutely dialed in on technique, helping people make sure that they're staying safe and structurally sound, not using load that's inappropriate for them, scaling reps, changing movements altogether again. So those are the main things, and really what we find most often with people who have some sort of injury history is that the lack of usage is actually what's causing a lot of their pain. And so if we can find the right movement patterns to help reintroduce movement back to them and then progressively overload those over time, then they get a lot more out of their experience.
Yeah, I know for me, I can confidently say I am fitter than I've ever been, stronger than I've ever been, more flexible than I've ever been, and I don't even go to the yoga class that we have. It's just amazing kind of how things have compounded. I came in first 3 or 4 months and did have some shoulder issues. Marissa was able to work with me. We have our crossover symmetry bands in the gym now. I try to get that in as a warm-up every day, and haven't had shoulder problems, knock on wood, in a little over a year. And that's with doing snatches and Olympic lifts and getting heavy with it. And so that's just kind of been mind-blowing for me. And so I think for anybody who is a little hesitant, just know that, as Jordan said, there may be a totally different approach for you that you can find in the gym. Everything is scalable. And we can talk a little bit about that in a sec, but I think you're going to wake up in a year and it'll blow your mind, the gains you've made. And it won't just be strength, it could be flexibility. I can actually touch my toes now. So that's been exciting for me to experience. Kind of along those lines, when it comes to the fear of getting injured, we've talked about this recently. I think there's also this hesitancy to join into the CrossFit culture, or that there's this cult type of culture that people shy away from. And maybe that's produced a little bit by some of the marketing that has existed in the past for other CrossFit gyms or early in CrossFit's history. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I think that joining and being part of a CrossFit gym in 2010 versus in 2019 could be considerably different. If you were part of a CrossFit gym in 2010, chances are you're what's known as an early adopter, and usually the early adopters are a little more extreme.
Right.
And now we're in kind of that like mid-majority phase where when people are actually getting interested into it now because they can see the benefit of it,
Right.
not just because it's this new extreme thing. And then when they get in, they understand that it really isn't that extreme anyway. Sure, some workouts are going to be harder than others, but it's not it's not there's plenty of things that are way harder to do.
For sure. It's not impossible. I found that out really quickly. I mean, I think it was just, it's in your head. You have that, your imagination starts running wild, and you see again, maybe you've seen those CrossFit documentaries where you're seeing the fittest individuals in the world walk 100 yards on their hands or whatever it may be, and you're going, man, I don't want to have anything to do with that. But that's not what's going on in our gym either.
Yeah.
So, and then like I mentioned, there's maybe there was a little bit of almost too much pride early on in things like throwing up after a workout or busting your shin on doing box jumps, things like that, where sure, that's fine, but that can probably scare some people off. I know I don't want to bust my shin and I don't want to throw up. That's actually a huge fear of mine, and another thing that kept me from joining CrossFit. Yeah. And I've only thrown up once.
And that's one of those things too, where it's usually the individual makes a decision to go that hard. And sometimes like maybe you're feeling good and you can go that hard, but really, I would say 99% of people who do this have never. I've never vomited.
Must be nice.
Yeah. And, I would say that definitely goes for most people. So it's just kind of a funny thing. But again, like that used to be a point of pride back in the day. Was like, there was the mascot, Pukey the Clown, and our experiences, especially with the way that we coach too, is to make sure that we're doing appropriate loading, appropriate reps, and therefore being at an appropriate intensity where that's not even an option for most people. So if it happened to you, I'm sorry, but it's not something to be afraid of for sure.
Yeah, well, and I think too, like you said, it's more of the individual, and I had to learn, that this isn't game day. It's not really a competition. That was another, I think people may hear of Wattify or how and I don't even know how to best describe because I just don't see it as competitive the way some others might. But early on I did. I wanted to give 100% to win, and that's why I'm in the bathroom afterwards thinking I might need to throw up. But it doesn't have to be like that, and I've learned. And something that we do before we start every class that I think is really important is we go around and mention how we're feeling on a scale of 1 to 10. It could be emotionally, physically, all the above, and then we have a little question of the day. But I've always really enjoyed that because even when I wasn't thinking about it, it allowed me an opportunity to go, all right, I'm about a 5 today. Yeah. And so I'm not going to give it, maybe I don't feel like throwing up. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to check this off the box and leave feeling much better than when I came into the gym. And then you're also letting Jordan and Marissa and the coaches know how you feel, so they're able to coach you better. And through that workout, where you don't have to feel like every day has to be, 100%.
Yeah, and it should be fun too. So it's like if you ever feel like you're struggling a little bit, let's just peel back a little bit. Maybe choose some easier movements, make it a little bit easier, so you're still having fun, getting a good workout in, and you leave feeling better than you came in.
Yeah, and so along those lines, there's definitely within our facility, I've never felt pressured or any kind of guilt about not maybe going prescribed workout, or because you just never know what people are going through, the type of day they're having, and you really are just happy that you're there and they're there.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody out there who's struggling with that, keep coming in. You will feel better when you leave. But yeah, so that was all I really had. I don't know if you've got any other kind of pushback or experienced any other common questions or other negative stigmas that might be out there.
Yeah. The only other one that really jumps out to me is this will be the battle that will be forever, is there's certain people who believe a certain way is the best way. And I think that's really what made CrossFit so cool for me in the beginning, and certainly how I try to coach people, is that if anything is the only way, we really need to not do that anymore.
Right.
As soon as it becomes dogma, then that's where trouble can start to happen. So it's always fun to incorporate new methods, new movement patterns, new whether it's using bands for accommodating resistance versus thinking about the cardiac output method for low and slow for extended periods of time, and just incorporating all of the different disciplines in fitness to make sure that you're actually well-rounded.
Yeah.
Because if you're more well-rounded, then your health is more well-rounded. And even all the way into, we coach people in taking time for meditation, and also what can we do to help you sleep better. And so it's not even just what's happening in the gym, it's the whole aspect of what your lifestyle factors are.
Right.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, and for me, along those lines, that was a big draw, and what's made it sustainable for me over such a long period of time is the constant variation. There's something different every day.
Mm-hmm.
You really, it's almost impossible to get bored with our programming, and what you'll find, there's a new challenge, because that was the hurdle that I had in the past with fitness. And around this time of year, it's January, you probably got the New Year's resolution to get fit and get your beach body, and you're ready to start now, and out there's a bunch of 90-day programs or 3 months to beach body stuff, and I've done those, and they work, they do, but what happens after that 90 days?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the tough thing. It was like, man, I do not want to do that again.
Right.
And then 3 months later, you've enjoyed your summer body. It's fall and it's starting to get colder, and it's Thanksgiving and Christmas, and before you know it, you're back. January 1st, not looking and feeling the way you'd want to. And so I just kept thinking, why can't I find anything that's sustainable? Mm-hmm. And a big part of what's made it sustainable for me is, we're doing something different every single day. Not to mention all the other things we've mentioned as far as community, quality coaching, one-on-one, and great music provided by Marissa.
She definitely crushes it.
Kills it. So that's my little story there. But kind of to change direction, I know we mentioned we were going to do this in this episode. I wanted to hear a little bit more of, in detail, your personal kind of story to finding CrossFit and ending up down here in Wilmington at CrossFit Carolina Beach. And then maybe I can go into a little bit of my journey, more of what brought me here, and then we'll close it up.
Sweet. I'll make mine super quick, just because I'm not sure how long the old iPhone here is going to hang on.
Good point.
But I had some heart issues. Was diagnosed with AFib. Had to go to the hospital. Found myself having panic attacks because of these weird feelings in my chest, and I knew something had to change. And I was on beta blockers for a while, and the side effects from that were just really, really bad. And then you're looking at yourself and you're like, man, I'm 23 years old on beta blockers. What's wrong with me? and I just found out that it was all lifestyle influences, and getting healthier, I found this awesome thing that is CrossFit, and that was the biggest catapult into health and wellness for me, because it embodies all lifestyle, not just what happens in the gym.
Right.
Yeah, my symptoms went away and got off the beta blockers, and just absolutely fell in love with it and what it can do for people who want to change. And that was in Asheville, and had an awesome opportunity to come up where my business partner, we were just workout buddies at the time, said, hey, me and the wife and the kids are thinking about moving. Do you want to come start a gym? And
Heck yeah.
Here we are.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit different journey for me. Like I said, kind of alluded to it. Was just always curious, always trying to find something that would be sustainable, that wasn't just your 3-month program, P90X style fad thing. And I had moved back to Wilmington to start my real estate career, and had that goal of joining up and putting myself through something difficult every day, knowing that it would have the positive impact in the other areas of my life. And like I said, just got really lucky that CrossFit Carolina Beach was a couple miles down the road, and I consider myself very grateful to be a part of the family that we have there. So it looks like we're getting low on the battery, which rookies, we'll get it worked out, folks.
We'll definitely do better next time.
But stay tuned with us. We're going to try to at least once a month bring an episode. We've got some exciting things coming. We're going to do some member features so that you're not listening to just me and Jordan, have our other coaches hop in. And we've also got something really exciting coming next month if you're in the CrossFit world, which is the CrossFit Open. So we will get to that next time. Peace.